At this time, I'd like to invite our incense lighters up. And if we could turn to page 2 in our chant books, we'll be doing the incense lighting gatha. In gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shin. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a teaching monk here at the temple. I had a couple announcements before we get started. First off, if there are any families with small children, or if anybody needs to step aside for any reason, right through these curtains, we have another space downstairs that includes some toys. Another bathroom is down there, a water fountain. And also, if you are looking for restrooms in general, through these curtains here, there are two as well. We ask that as you enter and leave the temple space here, we just give a bow. And as you walk across, we ask that you walk across the back and not the front, just to kind of help to create a sacred space here, as well as to kind of not interrupt the services going on. With that, why don't we stand up and give a silent greeting to those around us? I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the three jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to practice mindful breathing and smiling, looking deeply into things. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to offer joy to one person in the morning, and to help relieve the grief of one person in the afternoon. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. And if we turn to the next page, we'll be doing the Mahaprajna Paramita Hidara Sutra, the Heart Sutra. Emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind. No realm of sight. No realm of consciousness. No ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance. No old age and death, nor extinction of them. No suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna, paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Away from all delusive views one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant, fearless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita. Gate, gate, aragate, arasangate, bodhisattva. Gate, gate, aragate, arasangate, bodhisattva. Gate, gate, aragate, arasangate, bodhisattva. Dhamma, prajna, paramita, Hridaya Sutra. Buddha was born in Kapalasafatsu, enlightened in Magadha, taught in Paranasi, entered Nirvana in Kusanagara. Now we set out the Buddha's bowls. May we with all living beings realize the emptiness of the three wheels, giver, receiver, and gift. What I just did there was the first few motions of the Oryoki ceremony, which I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with that. In Zen Buddhism, it is a ceremonial way to eat meals in a monastery. You could also think of it as eating meditation. If any of you have been to any of our retreats here, we do a form of meditative eating, but it is a lot less formal than the traditional Oryoki ceremony. This is something I wanted to do my talk on today because I'm not sure if anybody in this room has ever done one of these ceremonies before, and I was hoping that this could be a little bit of an introduction of how that works, as well as all the lessons that are available within the ceremony, which there are a lot. I cut myself off at 10. So if this was a YouTube video, it'd be the top 10 Oryoki lessons to be learned. With that, I'm sorry I didn't memorize my list. One of the first lessons that you will learn from performing Oryoki is the lesson of modeling, the method of teaching by watching and by showing. Because the Oryoki ceremony is done in silence, apart from the chants that we do, there's not a lot of opportunity for, no, hold your spoon like this, hold the bowls like this, turn it like this. It's very much watch. See how the person next to you is doing it. See how the person at the head of the table is doing this and follow along. I think this is a really important lesson because this is one of the first ways that we learn as humans is to watch others and to do as we see. Which is important because a lot of us say, no, do what I say, not what I do. Especially if any of you are trying to raise children. It's really hard to realize, well, I'm telling you to do this, but don't look at what I do because I haven't quite got it yet too. Also, I like to think, and I'd like to present mindfulness itself is learning from the world as you see it. Being able to see every moment as a lesson. that sort of single-pointed mindfulness, I think, is another lesson that you can get from this. I think there's also a lesson here in the nature of a student and a teacher. A perfect student can sit down their first time in an Oryoki ceremony and copy their teacher perfectly and get every movement correct. I think often we think of, I got to find a good teacher to teach me. But I think there's probably more to be said in becoming the perfect student. A perfect student can learn from anything. It doesn't matter if their teacher is flawed or, a hard ass or maybe not the most articulate. And really, it's the students that bring out the best in the teacher. The second part of the ceremony, lesson in the ceremony, is that we need to learn how to serve others, and we need to learn how to be served. In Oryoki and much of Japanese culture, you never serve your own food or drink. You always allow another person to serve you. So, for instance, when we were receiving food in the Oryoki, we hold our bowls out for the food and let them know when we've had enough. I think this is a really important way to look at life because most of us struggle with one of those two things. Either helping other people out around us, or sometimes, and usually for the people that tend to be in temples like this, we have a hard time letting other people serve us. But that's also a gift to let other people serve you as well. I remember hearing too with the general culture of alcohol in Japan too, is it's sort of seen as taboo to serve your own alcohol drink. And I think, how much healthier would we have a relationship with alcohol if we never poured our own drink? We always had somebody else who was helping to keep us accountable, to let us know you've had enough. But also when you're serving others and being served, whether that's food or drink too, you remember that consuming becomes a deeply a collaborative effort between families, between friends. So it's not so much about, lowering yourself to become somebody who serves or raising yourself up, but it's acknowledging the power that is in giving and receiving. The third lesson that I will give you is that there is a certain freedom of mind to be found in the choreography of a dance or following the notes on a score. When you do an Oryoki ceremony, every single movement is very strictly choreographed, down to how you hold your hands, down to how you pick up your bowls, how everything is arranged on the place setting. It's a little bit like being stuck in etiquette school, I think. But something really unique happens, I think, when you put yourself in these positions. And I'm going to ask for a raise of hands. Has anybody ever played in any sort of band or orchestra or choir before? Okay. Has anybody ever done any sort of choreographed dance, some sort of formal dance? Perfect. Okay. Maybe this one is a little looser, but has anybody been in a sports team where you're supposed to follow a strict play or work together? Yeah. Have you ever kind of realized that when you're working with other people in this really kind of structured way, it seems counterintuitive, but the mind for those instances kind of comes at ease. It sounds like sitting down and eating in such a regimented, choreographed way could be a little nerve-wracking and restrictive, but when you are really in the forms, you are kind of forced in this sort of, pun intended, this sort of zen. I'll never forget playing in orchestras when I was a kid. I played the viola, which is like the violin, but for losers. And when you're following a score on the page, you can't think about anything else. Your mind can't be on, I'm hungry right now, or I'm mad at my sibling, or, I'm bored. You're just so in it. And it's crazy that when your mind is so active, it's almost like it relaxes. Maybe I'm just weird, but we can sit and stare at a wall all day in meditation and hope that we get to these spots. But there are other ways to reach this sort of single-minded focus than pure meditation. And you'll find a lot of that in Zen is trying to find ways to pull that into other parts of our life, for sure. And Oryoki is absolutely one of those. The fourth lesson is that through Oryoki, we learn to listen to our bodies and we learn to listen to the people around us. And we also learn that words are just the start of communication. Oryoki can be loosely translated to just enough, or the vessel of just what we need, in a way, referring to the bowls. See, because we're eating and we're trying to reach the level of just enough, where we don't have too much, we don't have too little, we're constantly asked to listen to our bodies as we eat intentionally. When we're going to receive food, we're taking just enough. We're not taking too much, too little. And you're expected to eat every last grain of rice, so don't take too much. You're going to have a sore belly. Also, Oryoki is very much of being aware of the people around you. I already talked about learning the forms through watching other people, but also there are silent cues throughout. So for instance, we have cues of when we're done, how to place our silverware. And when there comes a time in the middle of the meal when you see that a sort of critical amount of people have stopped eating, there is a silent call, which I guess that's a little bit of an oxymoron, for seconds, where everybody is expected to pause and wait and then signal for more food. If you want more food, you remove the utensil from the bowl that you want seconds of. Nothing is conveyed verbally. It's all through motions, through watching, through holding up. A lot of you know this because I talk about this a lot, but in my day job, I work with people who have autism, and a large amount of these people that I work with can't communicate verbally. And so a lot of that too is learning when I'm, getting to know these kids is how to pick up on these nonverbal cues, as well as, learning how to pick up on the cues around what people are saying as well. What I have learned from working with kids who can't yet speak is that they are not the only ones who have not mastered the art of speaking. I realize even more so how much everybody has trouble communicating. I would even say that most of the intersocial problems that we have as human beings are a breakdown in communication. Even a punch in the face is, I'm frustrated right now and I can't communicate it in a better way. But also learning to take that same intuition of reading other people to yourself. Knowing when to listen to your own body, what you need and what you don't need in the moment. As somebody who struggled with a lot of eating disorders in my life, Oryoki is a great practice in learning how to rebuild and reframe that relationship with food in general. It becomes a practice of caring for my body. It becomes a practice of sharing with other people, and becomes a practice of gratitude, which has all been wonderful. And this next lesson kind of goes with the last one before, but it's learning to take just enough and to waste nothing. So there's one part of the Oryoki ceremony that is the hardest part for people who have never done it to handle. We don't waste anything in Oryoki. When we're done eating, for instance, we have the Oryoki spatula, and we're expected with our dry bowl to scrape out every last bit of sauce, every last grain of rice, until the bowl is almost completely clean. Once we've done that with all of our bowls, somebody will come around with either a hot pot of water or hot tea, and we'll pour it into the first bowl. We use the hot tea to clean out the bowls. And then once the first bowl is cleaned, we pour it to the second bowl. We wash it out. We pour it to the last one. And then here's the part people have a hard time with. We drink all the water till there's nothing left. I don't recommend that you all drink your dishwater. But if you really want to, here's a great opportunity to do that. At first it was a little weird. And then I was like, no, this is just like a nice little broth at the end. Also, they do usually carry around a vessel where you can pour out a lot of your sort of extra water if you're just not there yet or doesn't seem appealing to you. But then they take that leftover water and they usually use that to water the plants and throw out in the garden. So even that wastewater is not wasted. This is a really hard lesson, I think, in our culture specifically, because maybe it's the nature of capitalism, but it's that sort of we must consume to keep the machine going. More is better. And if you've ever worked in the service industry or a restaurant, you realize how much is wasted. I'll never forget, I used to work in pizza places for a very long time in my teens and 20s. And at the end of the night, we used to have to throw out all the pizzas. And if you took them home, you'd get in trouble. If somebody came at the end of the night and was hungry and you gave them away, you'd get in trouble. We had to throw them into the dumpster. And so we learned, we'll put them on the dumpster, but we'll kind of put them very nicely on the top of the dumpster and be like, I can't see anything. But we live in a society that would rather throw away food than to give it away without a paycheck. What's the absurdity of that, you know? I hope that sounds absurd to you all, but that's where we're living right now. We live in a society that if you get a hole in a shirt, you throw it out. You lose a button, you throw it out. It only took about, I would say, 2 generations to forget how to thread a sewing machine. I'm going to ask you again, who knows how to thread a sewing machine? Hey, a lot of you. Good. I want to see all hands next week. There are 2 skills that every Zen monk should learn how to do, and one is to sew. And spoiler alert, it's very necessary to practice Zen because we make our robes. And 2 is a little bit of woodworking because something's going to break and you're going to need to learn how to fix it. Ironically, even the scrapers that we use, when you buy them brand new, aren't completed. You have to make little notches at the end to hold the cloth that we put on there too. So I like to think they do that on purpose. Be like, hey, you got to finish it. I'm not going to finish it for you. The next lesson that I will say is that we need to learn to embrace the storytelling in ritual and the lessons that you receive in the actions of your everyday life. I know that it's, really easy to go to watch a Disney movie or hear a fairy tale about kings and queens saving, people from dragons and these things, but you need to realize that most of the stories that have been passed down from your ancestors are really the mundane life. How to dress yourself, how to eat, how to set the table. These are the things that are so intimately transmitted from us and our ancestors going down. And really that's culture itself. And I would like to think that if you think of any culture, those are the things that'll come up. The food, the festivals, the clothing, the everyday sort of mundane things. And also through the art of Oryoki, we are also learning to embrace that sort of lessons that we receive in these actions as well. Even down to the chants. I only gave you the first chant, but all of the steps of the Oryoki are also connected to the stories of the Buddha, the stories of the Dharma, chants of gratitude. And so even within the chants itself, there's a little bit of lessons poured into that. The other really cool thing is that because everything has been maintained so strictly, for better or for worse, when I sit down and eat Oryoki, I'm eating exactly as my Dharma ancestors have since the Middle Ages. Which there's something kind of cool to that. Especially, we usually do it in full robes. There are very few things, and honestly, I don't know if there's anything else that I can point out in my life that if I were to be poofed 1,000 years in the past with my bowls and my robes, I wouldn't stick out at all, and I would know exactly what to do. And even if I couldn't speak the language of the people that I was around, the language of the movements and the language of the rituals is still there. Do I think that you need to learn how to do Oryoki to receive that? No. But I think that you need to look back at your own life and think, how am I connecting to my ancestors and my past through my actions? How can I preserve those? Maybe it's a recipe that was handed down to you. My partner is here and they've been gardening, and that's something that's really connecting them to their father, and being able to find things in your life that are not just sort of, cultivating that culture in the moment, but you're also bringing all the spirits of your ancestors along with you for the ride and keeping them alive. So I encourage you, whether that's through Oryoki or not, to learn those lessons. For me, it's cooking beans in the pot. I'm Mexican, and that's one of the earliest memories I have is the smell, because it takes like 6 hours to cook these beans, and the whole house fills with that fragrance. And I always remember my grandmother would start very early in the morning and turn the light on above the oven. So you'd wake up in the morning, you'd just see the dim light in the kitchen, and then the simmering pot. And that kind of brings me back. The seventh lesson that I have is that we need to learn to see the beauty in nature and the forms of nature, and the beauty in the wear of everyday items and the value in repairing those things. Even though Oryoki bowls are maybe the most valuable thing to a monk, a lot of that is not because of their materials. They're usually made out of wood, mostly. Some sort of lacquered material sometimes. Sometimes there can be porcelain or ceramics. But also, the thing about Zen items is that it's not the brand new or the crafted ones that have the most value. It's the ones that have the longest history that are the most valuable items. So I'll give you an example. Recently, I was in Nebraska at the Monastery Nebraska Zen Center, and I saw their Han. And their Han's a little famous in the Zen world because I should explain what a Han is. It is this big wooden kind of block hanging on the wall that you take a mallet and you hit it almost like a dinner bell. It's a warning. You let everybody know, hey, we're about to sit in meditation about 5 minutes, or we're about to eat in 5 minutes, so get ready. It is literally a dinner bell. And I've seen some really beautiful crafted Hans and some brand new ones, but this one is so old that there's almost a hole worn in the middle. And it's that kind of beauty in items, the things that you've had forever. There's nobody in this room that would rather put on a new pair of blue jeans over the ones that they've been wearing for a few years that fit just right. That's that kind of beauty I'm talking about, that sort of worn-in comfort. Being able to realize that, again, not to make Oryoki sound like some sort of communist propaganda here, but when you can embrace the beauty in that sort of worn-in, well-made items, we can get away from that, I have to buy something new as soon as I got my first scratch on something, I'm a guitar player, and I'll never forget, I had this brand new 335 Gibson that I loved very dearly, and I bought it brand new, and I'll never forget when I got my first scratch on it. And for me, I was like, yes, now I don't have to worry about it anymore. The first one hurts the most, and you're like, okay, whatever. But also, if any of you have played any wooden instruments, especially string instruments, you know that the instruments actually get better over time. The way that the wood ages helps the resonance of an instrument, which is why you hear about these musicians playing the Stradivarius violins made in the 1600s, and they're some of the most valuable instruments in existence. We're talking millions of dollars. Guitars from the 50s and 60s are treasured. And if you could pick between that old beat-up guitar that's 60 years old and the brand new shiny one, every guitar player on the planet is going to say the old one's going to be better. There's a little bit of Zen in that. I'd like to think the older I get that maybe that's true of people as well, hopefully. But there's a wisdom in that sort of letting things age and then caring for them and repairing them over and over again. And if nothing else, take that pair of pants that's got a rip in it and repair it today. Maybe that'll be your lesson. I guarantee it'll be more comfortable than buying something new, and it'll also be better for the planet as well. The eighth lesson is when we all do our part to take care of our own place, the world can move in harmony. So I told you that part of the Oryoki ceremony is to also clean the bowls. And you'll see in a minute, not only do we clean our bowls, but we also take time to wrap them all up. When you have a monastery full of, dozens of people, you can imagine how much trouble the dishes would be. If everybody washes their own dish, the dishes are a lot easier. And in some monasteries too, when they're done eating, they pass down a cloth, a rag to clean just your section of the table, pass it down. So at the end of the ceremony, the table is clean, the dishes are clean, and it took no time at all. Now I know that not everybody is always in the place to take care of their own place setting. And I mean that symbolically, not just literally your place setting. But I do think that there is some wisdom in saying that you need to take care of your own dishes first. Because when you do that, you put yourself in a better position to take care of others. Also, taking care of your own place as a way to be compassionate towards others. Because we're all in a room full of very compassionate people right now. And the more that we take care of ourselves, we've alleviated that sort of burden on the people around us as well. As much as you can. And again, if you remember the lesson before, learn how to receive that help. Learn how to give that help. But also learn how to take care of your own place as well, so that we can kind of operate in more harmony as well. The next lesson, getting close to the end here, food, culture, storytelling, and as a result, our values are all inherited just as the bowls are passed down. So there's a reason that monks really value their robes and their bowls. Those are usually seen as the two things. And it goes all the way back to Shakyamuni Buddha, who said that only owned two possessions, and that was his kesa, his robes, which he sewed together from discarded fabric that he found on the ground, and it was so gross and stinky that he had to dye it in saffron because that had like a antibacterial effect. I don't know if they knew what bacteria was back then, but they knew that it helped clean the fabric. So that's why you see a lot of the bright orange kind of robes as a nod to that. And his bowl, he said, we should still have our bowls. And because of that, our biggest bowl here we call the Buddha bowl. Traditionally, this is the same bowl that we eat from, that also when we're out begging for alms, that we would receive our alms with the traditional monk. There's also another story of Wei Nun, who, a few hundred years after Buddha, he was a monk living in a monastery, and it said that he was, held one of the lowest positions in the monastery. I think he was a janitor or something like that in the monastery. And the head abbot of the time was growing very old, and it was time for him to find a successor. And he had a lead student that everybody knew, like, he's going to get the job, like, he deserves it. He's the second in command, so it's all sort of pomp and circumstance. We know what's going to happen here. But the abbot, just to be fair, said, I'm going to say that I'm going to have everybody in the temple give us a poem. And whoever can write the greatest poem gets to be the next abbot. And I didn't memorize the poems. They are written down and preserved. So if you're curious, you can look up Wei Nun's poem. But the head student gave his poem. The abbot read it and said, "You know what? That's pretty good. It's a great poem." And then all the monks went to go to bed. And at the end of the night, Wei Nun, who was the janitor, was cleaning up. And he said, "You know what? I have a poem." Wei Nun couldn't read, couldn't write. So he had to pull a friend over and said, "Hey, I want you to write this on the wall," because he didn't have any paper at the time. And so they wrote out Wei Nun's poem on the wall of the monastery. And then the next morning, the abbot's usually the first person to wake up. So he woke up and he saw this poem on the wall. And he said, "This is it. This is the true Dharma here." But he knew that if the rest of the monks saw that this came from the lowest of them, there's no way they could accept this. So it said that he immediately took off his shoe and blotted out the poem before anybody else could read it. And then the next night, around midnight, he pulled Wei Nun aside and said, "You have given the true Dharma in this poem. You're the one who deserves this place as a head monk. But if I were to give this to you, there's no way that the other monks would accept this. And, who knows what would happen? Maybe they would even react in violence towards you. And so it's kind of dangerous for you to stay here." So it said in the middle of the night, the head abbot took off his robe and gathered his bowls as a sort of symbol of being the head abbot. And he handed those two items to Wei Nun and said, "You need to leave." And there's a big split in Zen from that time because Wei Nun, who was the true successor, went and started his own temple while there was another break there. And so a lot of monks can kind of trace their ancestor, including myself, to Wei Nun in that moment. And sort of memory of that, traditionally when we receive our ordination, we do it in the middle of the night. And we're given those two items, our bowls. And these bowls here were given to me by my teacher, Suji, and our robes. And so there's some deep sort of symbolism that's embedded in these. And also realizing that it's these rituals and this culture and this storytelling that really colors our values and our morals and how we see meaning in the world. Eating rice from a bowl is not just eating rice from a bowl. Eating rice from the bowl is practicing compassion for the entire universe. And lastly, number 10, leaving the world how you find it. The end of the Oryoki ceremony begins exactly as it started. The bowl's in the same position, the table clean, the bowl's clean. There's a really beautiful symmetry. Last weekend, I went with some family up to Mackinac Island and St. Ignace, and we went to the state parks up there to see the falls. Does anybody know what the signs at state parks usually say? I'll give you a clue. Take nothing but, leave nothing but, there you go. And for those who couldn't hear, nothing but pictures, leave nothing but footsteps. That's really Oryoki. It's learning that every single movement that we have has really deep impact. I like to think of it as like a karmic footprint or karmic impact that we leave behind. For good and for bad. I'm realizing that everything we do has that effect on the universe, Every footstep is left behind. The beauty of being able to walk into a forest, down a path, take a hike, and being able to walk out and leaving it as we found it. That's really caring for our world, I think. And taking that same sort of approach with people too, and with our places. It's not leaving and doing nothing. It's not tiptoeing secretly. Nope, I hope they never knew I was here. But we got to eat an entire meal with people. We got to have all 10 of these lessons. And when we were done, we sat it down again and left no trace. I do hope to do some Oryoki ceremonies here at the temple at some point, if there are people that are interested. I think it's a very beautiful practice. I think it's a really great way to reframe food and coming together, and shows you how meditation can be more than just sitting on a cushion sometimes. I think there are lots of ways that you can take the lessons from Oryoki, even if you're not sitting and doing a very formal meal. I like to think of a lot of my life as a Soto Zen monk as a little bit in the diaspora, because there isn't a a monastery close by. And so I try to find ways in my life to sort of bring that monk life closer to me. For instance, this setup's pretty nifty. I actually have one at my work that I keep together as my lunch kit. And it's nice because every day when I eat my lunch at work, I've got my little package here and everything that I need. I've got my napkin, I've got my cutlery, I've got my bowls. And it's a nice way to just remember and nod to all these lessons that we had in our life. So I hope that, even if you never eat a traditional Oryoki meal, hopefully you can take some lessons from this and bring it to your next life. I talked for a long time. I'm hoping that this talk was meditative in itself. So if it is okay with everybody, I would like to skip our traditional sitting. If anybody is objection, we can go a little longer. I don't care. But if that's the case, why don't we go to our joys and concerns? Do we have a microphone? If not, somebody can come up and grab this one. So for joys and concerns, we just take some time to sit together and the good things going on and the bad things and the neutral things. And if anybody has anything in their lives they'd like to put some attention to, this is the time for that. So just raise your hand and we'll bring a mic around if you have something to say.
Is it on now?
There you go. Now it's on.
Hi. My name is Kimberly. This first joy is the first time I've ever shared here. I've been coming here for over a year. I guess in Chinese culture, right, the word challenge can be shifted into opportunity. So last week I was cleaning a house and I lost my dad's gold chain. And it was the one thing I asked for when he passed when I was 17. And honoring that he is not that object. I was holding space for how this lesson was here for me. And 2 days later, his friend, longtime friend, said, I made a bench for him. Would you be interested in helping me set it up at his gravesite? So yesterday, me and him, that's just how it worked out, was just me and him went out there and were able to really honor my father in a new way. And he hand painted this bench and it took him a year. And it's just synchronicity being here. You're talking about how we're honoring our ancestors and how I can show up through them. And for me, that's art. So I draw with my dad every day. And just grateful to be a part of this community and recognizing everything that I went through as a child. It didn't start with him. It didn't start with my mom, right? So I can be that tall tree and shift and transmute all that pain into love. So thank you for hearing my share. It's just wonderful to connect.
I feel your pain. When my grandfather left, the only thing that I received was a pocket knife because he used to always carry around a pocket knife. And I kept that in my pocket for years until one day I didn't even think about it and I went to the airport to fly in a plane and they took it. So it happens.
Okay, I have a joy. It's interesting that we're on the topic of losing things because I lost my wallet yesterday. I was walking to the bus stop, and I don't know. I was like I was wearing pants that didn't have pockets at the time, so those I definitely don't. I definitely got rid of those pants, to be honest, because, well, I didn't throw them away, but I left them at my parents' house, and I just grabbed only pants that have pockets. But yeah, I don't know. I remember going to the bus stop, even though I realized I had it lost, like not even when I was like all the way there yet, and I kind of went to the bus station to sort of like see maybe someone saw I was walking there and didn't want to just brought it there. And yeah, I asked security, they didn't have it. Yeah, so anyways, this part is kind of embarrassing, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna buy a bus card. And I was really stressed out, and I kind of just questioned this guy for stealing my wallet, who I'd never seen before. Like literally just for having the same brand debit card as me, and he was also paying for a bus pass. And I was like, yeah, does that guy have? I was like, it's my name on that debit card? The guy's like, nah, man. And then yeah, the person who was taking the payment was like, yeah, that's like I told her my name. She's like, nah. And I don't know. I felt pretty bad for the next few hours that I even did that. But I feel it's still kind of a joy for me because now I'm like, I don't know. Now I'm like, all right, that was kind of a low point. I don't think I'm going to reach that again. So pretty glad I got that out of my system, I guess. And I mean, it's not like my SSN was in my wallet. It was just my ID and stuff. Debit. I turned off my debit. So. But yeah, I don't know. That was a pretty interesting day, and I kind of just thought, it's not that bad. I guess I can just get new ones. So, yeah.
Does anybody have a joy about finding a wallet?
Hello. Oh, that's really loud. Um, Thank you, everyone, for being here. I guess I just wanted to more or less say that, just to thank everyone for being here as a community and for being one-minded this morning. This is the first time that I have been to a Buddhist service in several years. I was a practicing Buddhist for over 4 years through a decent portion of my life, and have digressed from Buddhism and the Dharma, and am now at a turning point in my life where I am returning, looking for more guidance and stability. So I just wanted to thank the jewel of the Sangha for doing y'all's job, because it is much needed, and that is a joy. It is a joy today to be here. There's also a lot of pain in my life right now. Like I said, I'm at a turning point, waiting for a lot of things to develop in a material sense. But I'm happy to be able to let this moment just be this moment, and I just wanted to thank everybody for being here and being of one mind.
Do we have anybody online through Zoom or YouTube?
From Kunga. My concern is that my sister was recently diagnosed with breast cancer and that I have 3 nieces with young children that are receiving medical care for serious conditions. My joy is that we live in a time and place that has medical resources to treat these children. And I have both a concern and joy to share. Good morning, everyone. My name is Igye Su. My concern is I have a dear friend who recently reached out and asked me to put her in my thoughts, and she's experiencing some financial crisis. And I said, I'm going to bring this to my Sangha and allow them to hold space for you as you experience this. And so, if anything, as we bring our minds to those facing challenges and difficulties in their lives, just to continue to bring awareness and compassion to those individuals. That's my request. For joy, I want to thank all the volunteers this morning, and also a special shout out to Kent for helping me figure out how to run the tech this morning. First time I'm doing it. So thank you, Kent, for all of your guidance and help, and getting us back online so we could see this wonderful talk on the stream and give it to people who weren't able to be here today. Also, thank you to Angel and to Craig and to Alex for stepping in, and David for stepping in this morning and making sure that the temple service ran smoothly this morning. So thank you.
I do just want to echo that too. Thank you, Ige Su, for saving the day. Yeah, I'll do a little clap. I do have another joy. 2 weekends ago, I was able to travel to Nebraska with Nasan Skara, a student of mine, and you all know, as on the Dharma Council. And we went to the Nebraska Zen Center for a Shin there, which is an intensive meditative practice. But it was really great for me. That temple has a lot of meaning to me because, well, as you all know, that's where Shin went to stay for for some training last year, as they left us, so we can be a little bitter. But also, that's the temple that my teacher Suji studied at for a very long time. And the founders of that temple are in my lineage. So even though I had never been there before, there was a little bit of a sense of kind of coming home and being able to practice with my own kind of immediate ancestors. So it was really, really great. Do we have anybody else? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Oh, there we go. Yes.
Hello, my name is Miranda. My joy is I'm a first-time grandma. As of Friday, twin granddaughters. Gonna leave here to go to the hospital and see them again. But this is my fourth time coming here. I was very anxious the first time. I think I wept throughout, but it felt good, calming. My second service, I believe I listened to Ige-su, and she talked about the path of bodhicitta and equanimity, which I always felt I had a good vocabulary, but I actually had to go home and look that one up, and that one stayed with me. So every service has stayed with me every day. And I am going through something transitional in my life. My husband of 21 years has found his own journey now and left, and that's okay. But I've had so many events in my life, and instead of breaking down, it seems better to learn from it, move on, and help others with it. And that's what I've been working with. I've been anxious every time I've wanted to come and say something. Today I challenged myself to actually say something. So thank you for listening.
Why don't we take a few moments just to hold all that in? Thank you. I do have some announcements for September. I don't even think it's September yet. Tomorrow's September. Yeah. We have an online meditation group that meets on Wednesdays from 6 to 6:45 p.m. And you can join via Zoom, and Kunga is the one who is running that now, so you can contact them for more information. We also have our Thursday Dharma discussion group. They meet on Thursdays, 9:30 to 11 a.m. And they will be reading Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet by Thich Nhat Hanh. And that is run by Reverend Jingsu Ryan Duffield. So you can reach out or see our newsletter. And also, if you are not connected to our newsletter, I would suggest doing that because I have all these announcements around there as well as links and able to get a hold of us. We also have a Dharma Disciple training Sunday, September 7th, and that's for temple cleaning and setup training. On September 14th, we have an incense lighting training. And then on the 21st, we have temple etiquette and greeter training. And all of these trainings are going to happen at 9 o'clock here at the temple. And you can contact Nasan Skara or see the newsletter for more information. Anybody who's looking to help out or get connected more, this is a fantastic way to do that. As you saw today, we were able to have people kind of jump in because we've had that trainings before. So even if you just want to, you're curious about these things and you just want to kind of find out, it looks like the next 3 Sundays we'll be doing these. So feel free to come a little early and just learn how to keep things going here in the morning services. I also think it's really wonderful that we are kind of a Sangha ran service as well, because there's some temples where the person behind the mic kind of just runs everything and everybody else just kind of sits here, but this is a collaborative effort. So we also have the 5 Buddhist precepts training, and that starts Sunday, September 7th, so that's next week, and then they meet bi-weekly through November 30th, and they'll have an 8:30 a.m. cleaning. There's a 9 a.m. mini lecture and discussion, and then after the service at 11:15 to 12:15, there's a class. So the participants will focus on individual reflection, reading, journaling, memorization, group discussions, and you can contact Kunga or see the newsletter for more information on that. We also have our Buddhist Mutual Aid Sangha that meets on Sunday, September 14th, and that's at 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. And the Buddhist Mutual Aid Sangha, we try to create a just a connection of people to kind of help each other out. We also meet, we have a Discord too. If nothing else, we've kind of created a nice Sangha within our Sangha to kind of keep connected and to help share resources and time and support each other. We also have a Grand Rapids Buddhist Temple board meeting, and that is going to be on Sunday, September 21st at 11:30 a.m. here at the temple. You can also join via Zoom, and all Sangha members are invited to observe. We also have a Fundamentals of Buddhism class that's not till October, but I'm going to put on your radar, October 11th at 9 a.m. until noon. That's a Saturday. And we do ask that you register by the 10th, so you've got some time, October 10th. And it's just a class where we give some of the basic Buddhist philosophies. We cover meditation, basic text, how to implement Buddhist teachings. And I'm going to be the one running that class, so you can talk to me, or you can also look at our newsletter for more information on that. We also have Buddhist-based recovery meetings that use our space. On Mondays at 6:30, there's a meditation, and that's 6:30 p.m. and meeting here at the temple. Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m., they meet at the Alano Club. And Fridays at 10:05 a.m., they meet here at the temple or through Zoom. And you can contact Reverend Dressenshu, Shane, as well as Craig, I believe, is also somebody that you can reach out to as well for more information on that. Just for a couple other, I know I got a lot of announcements today. We just ask that just as my talk, we leave our seats as we found them, leave no trace.
Sunshin,
Yes.
we do have a few other announcements before cleanup.
Yes, go for it.
Our board is looking for board members. So anybody who is interested in helping take care of this temple, the physical space, as well as, encourage some work on the back end, they're looking for people to join the board. So if you are interested, please consider coming to the next board meeting, and that was September 21st.
Yes.
September 21st, after service. They'd really love to have more people come and take care of this space. Our tech team is also looking for volunteers. We have one of our tech members will be moving away in the next couple of months, so they're looking for more support. It's not hard. It's basically sit behind a computer and press start. Really not difficult. And lastly, we have a Dana announcement. This temple is supported through the generosity of our Sangha. So if you can, stick a couple bucks in the black box or scan the QR code to donate some funds. If funds are not something that you're able to commit to right now, we also would love to have goods donated. Took some inventory of items that our temple needs, such as tissues, small paper cups, lint rollers, a couple other things. So if you feel inclined to bring a couple things to temple the next time you're here, we'd love to have your support that way. I think that's about it on my end. Thank you.
Thank you. Like I was saying, just as we end today, just make sure that we can collect all the chant books and return our seats to how we found them. With that, why don't we stand, and we'll be doing our closing gathas on page 6. For all unskillful action ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, enormous field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless line of passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without